worker at GM's assembly plants in Lordstown, Ohio, Hamtramck near Detroit, or Oshawa, Ontario, it's going to be a Christmas to forget. By the end of 2019, 6,200 jobs will disappear at these assembly operations, as well as 645 at component plants in Warren, Michigan, and Baltimore. And white-collar workers will be affected too. GM plans to cut management staff by 8,000, and just over 2,000 of these employees have taken a voluntary buyout. We can expect the balance to be cut in January. So why is this happening? Well, GM is profitable, damn profitable, and the mass media seem confused by CEO Mary Barra's timing in closing plants in the middle of President Trump's self-proclaimed U.S. manufacturing renaissance. Well, the answer is simple. Nobody wants the products those plants are building. Now, it's not that the Chevy Impala and Volt, the Cadillac CT6, or the Buick LaCrosse are bad vehicles, quite the opposite. I've driven many of them, and I'd have any one of them in my driveway in a heartbeat. But they're sedans, and that body style is dying a slow but sure death at the hands of unibody platforms, small SUVs, and crossovers. The assembly operations were reported to be operating at approximately 40% capacity on a single shift. Now, no manufacturing operation mass-producing consumer goods can survive with those kinds of numbers. So why not retool? Now, in the auto industry, that question is harder to answer than it looks. In almost every case, it's cheaper to increase output in existing plants building a product rather than retool to duplicate a line. And despite considerable capital expenditure by GM, Hamtramck, Lordstown, and Oshawa are old plants. Now, bricks and mortar don't wear out like transfer lines or stamping presses, but they do become obsolete, and with the lure of significant incentives from right-to-work states in Dixie, it simply makes no economic sense to keep those older UAW operations running. Now, of course, there's a political dimension in this. President Trump very publicly told those Lordstown workers not to sell their homes and that manufacturing was back in America in a big way. So in effect, Mary Barra has made the president look like an idiot, and she's on her way to Capitol Hill to answer for her decisions. Now, she's going to get a rough ride, mainly because of the inherent hypocrisy the politicians and the mass media display when it comes to manufacturing. It's actually quite simple. GM was bailed out in 2008 and told in no uncertain terms that the company had to shape up and become a competitive global automaker. Well, they did, and they've returned considerable value to shareholders since that bailout. But 10 years later, politicians and commentators have distorted the meaning of the bailout to suggest that GM is some kind of industrial make-work project, and that the general is honor-bound to operate like the post office or the civil service. Now, those of us that have been in the automotive industry know that what the late Sergio Marchionne of Fiat Chrysler said is absolutely true. It's a lousy business. High volumes, incredibly thin margins, many complex inputs, and government regulation. No one in their right mind would start an auto company today. But if you're running a Detroit 3 major like General Motors, these cuts are just not optional. And as Mary Barra knows, and she's an automotive manufacturing engineer herself, that the best time to pull the trigger is now, not when we were in a full-blown auto sales slump, which many, by the way, predict is in the cards for 2019, on the heels of years of record sales and an eye-watering level of consumer indebtedness. Now, I'm glad I'm not in the hot seat like Mary Barra, but the hard fact is she has few options and none of them good. I hope that someone in the three broadcast networks, CNN and Fox, say so too.